What's going on, guys, and welcome to January's episode of Game of the Month, the show where we pick a game random every month, and at the end of the month we talk about it. My name's Seth, and joining me today is Chevy. Chevy, how you doing? Since we did Plus Club, where we talked about Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit Remastered, and the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, all games, I'm so happy I don't have to type those out anymore or say them anymore, because I put it out on Reddit, I put it out on YouTube, I had to type those names out so many times. I'm over it. I'm over it. But if you want to know what we thought about this game, so check out that episode. How you doing since then? And are you excited to finally talk about Metaphor ReFantazio and find out what our game of the month in February is?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what we're getting next month. We did kind of go through and try to add some stuff to it.
Yeah, the list was getting small.
Yeah,
first time in a long time.
I do believe we still have our runners up on there from community choice is what I'm looking for, and it would be very convenient if we can get those knocked out. So
yeah.
Other than that,
last year we got them like 2 in a row,
real quick,
back to back. Yeah, it was kind of nice.
And then as far as talking about Metaphor, I'll have something to say about it, but I am kind of more so looking forward to see what you have to say about it, because you've gotten much further than I have, I would say. So
true.
Yeah, but otherwise I'm doing all right. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this game because I actually went on my way to put the time in and beat the game. So I have to navigate my full thoughts on the game while also not spoiling anything. So this won't be a spoiler review if you're here for that. I could do a separate video if you wanted that. But you haven't beaten it, and there's people watching this who might not have beaten it. So I'm going to try and be as vague as possible with certain things. But yeah, I'm also excited to find out what we're going to be playing in February. We are in February now, so it'd be nice to know what I should be playing. And the list is getting smaller. I took one game off, which was Metaphor ReFantazio. That was originally on our list. I took that off, and I added 2 games that we discussed. So yeah, with that, let's get that figured out. If you're new here, we typically pick our game of the months by a random wheel. We spin it, whatever it lands on will be our game of the month for that month. On our list right now, we have Armored Core 6. These are all back burner games. These are games that we both have agreed we want to play them at some point. That's why it's kind of a random. There's some old, some new, whatever.
Right.
Armored Core 6, Tekken 8, Core Keeper, which is a community pick game. So if it lands on that, I think that was Sarah's pick. Civilization 7 has been added because that comes out very soon. DayZ is still on the list. Earth Defense Force 6 is also still on the list. The Finals is on the list, even though I haven't played that game in like a month, which is pretty crazy. Pokemon Infinite Fusion, which is also another community pick. I believe that was Chris. Mm-hmm. And then the other game that we've added to the list is Unicorn Overlord, a game we both would like to play, similarly to Metaphor ReFantazio. So yeah, that's what we got on our list. If you have any recommendations, we take them, but I won't guarantee we'll put it on there because this is something we both have to agree on. So yeah, and then also worth mentioning, Metaphor ReFantazio was a game that I picked. Every 3 months, I pick, we pick, you guys pick. So
with special exceptions here and there.
With special exceptions, sometimes I'll pull rank and just be like, this month we're playing this because I feel like it'd be a timely thing. And that might happen next month for a certain game that's coming out the very end of this month. I'll let you guys speculate on what game that is. How you feeling about this list? What game would you like? Anything you're feeling, not feeling, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be very convenient to get Core Keeper or Pokemon Infinite Fusion. I'd like to get those, knocked out for the people who obviously wanted those on the list for us to play.
Yeah.
Civ 7 will also be convenient since it comes out on the 11th of this month.
Yep. Though that would give us a little bit of time to not have to worry about a game of the month because it's not out yet.
Yeah.
But once that does come out, that's a game that you're going to be playing it for hours and hours per gameplay session.
Mm-hmm.
So,
other than that, I mean, I've always had a vague interest in DayZ, so that'd be a curious one, though we would have to figure out a server thing again.
I would just restart my server.
But, yeah. I mean, honestly, I'd play any of them. The one I think I'm least keen on right now, unfortunately, would be the Finals.
Yeah.
Mostly because it's not like that much of a new experience for me compared to the rest of the games. So.
Well, almost any other time that I'm playing it nonstop, it would have been great because I was playing it daily anyway. But this last month, I've had like health issues, all sorts of stuff that has just made me not want to play anything competitive. Yeah. So it would be really funny if it landed on that. Although I will play it. I love the finals. Sure. So it's kind of
I still have it installed, so it'll be easy. But.
Yeah. So, yeah, pretty much agree with you, though. I'd play any of these games. I kind of wanted to land on Armored Core 6 or Earth Defense Force 6. Although I'd be pretty stoked for it to land on Unicorn Overlord because that's a game I still haven't picked up and I would like to play it. But didn't you post it's on sale somewhere right now?
Amazon has it on sale for $30 for Switch and PS5.
Okay, well, I should just buy it anyway. But if it lands on that, that'd be great. Perfect timing. So with all that said, we should spin and find out.
Yep.
All right. We're going to spin the wheel and find out. For anybody listening, I will narrate it for you. All right. So we're going to spin in 3, 2, 1, and go. It is spinning right now, and it is cruising. We're starting to get some slowdown, finally, and it is going to land on what I thought would be funny if it landed on, and that is the finals. Well, that's going to be an easy month for me.
For sure.
How are we feeling?
Well, I was the one who won the least, so
yeah.
But I mean, it's fine. I've played it before, so
yeah. I got to brush up on my heavy.
I have to brush up on playing a competitive game in general. So
yeah,
but it'll be easy enough. So
all you got to do is grab the healing beam, stick with me, heal me. We'll be good. We'll get some wins.
See how it goes.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, I'm ready to play the finals. That's easy enough for me. I've put hundreds of hours into the game, so we'll be putting hundreds of more, and it'd be kind of nice to give it a review. Although you guys probably can guess how I feel about the game. So I literally said I love the game before we even got it. So we'll be playing the finals. You hear that, Cody? If you're watching this, we are playing the finals in February. That's our game of the month. So very interesting. All right. Well, that's all said and done. Got anything else you want to say?
No.
All right. Well, let's talk about the game we did play in January, and that game is Metaphor ReFantazio. If you didn't get a chance to play Metaphor ReFantazio, it is a JRPG, very traditional JRPG, made by the same people who brought us Persona 5, and you can definitely tell. The story basically is about a king dying and a prince who is cursed, and there is a power vacuum in a kingdom of 8 tribes that are all at odds. And in that power vacuum, people are vying for to become king. And there's something called the Royal Tournament where people will decide who will become king, and they are all trying to get support for their chance at the throne. Basically, you are playing as somebody who is also attempting to do that with some ulterior motives and other things going on, a lot more going on, but I'm not, play the game, you'll find out. And yeah, you go across a world from city to city, doing a main quest, doing side quests. It has a day and night cycle that I know will be divisive for many people. It was divisive for me in the first 10 hours. I'll talk about that. And yeah, you have a certain time limit before main events happen in which you have to accomplish side quests, get those done, leveling, grinding, getting certain gear, getting archetypes, getting certain things just knocked out before like 10 days, 30 days, 5 days, 8 days. So you need to be strategic about how you go about your days and nights. You get basically 2 turns a day to get things done. And yeah, the game features turn-based combat, a front row and a back row that you can move people to the front if they're like more like a melee type character, and to the back, the certain benefits if you're like a caster or something. There are archetypes, basically classes that you start off with new characters showing up. You get new archetypes when you do certain things in the game. You get more archetypes, and they give you new ways to play. There's also royal archetypes, which are basically like end game archetypes. And yeah, you level, you allocate stats to your main character. Your other characters naturally just level the way they do. And there is gear that you find and buy to make your characters more powerful. And it has a very, very, very distinct art style that we'll talk about as well. Anything else I should mention? I feel like that's pretty cut and dry. Yep. I've been playing it a lot, so I'm like prepared. We both played it. Let's start off with your impressions, and just so people know, I have beaten the game as of 8 a.m. yesterday. I stayed up all night. I was like, I gotta fucking get this done. And you are past the first dungeon, I think.
The first major dungeon.
Yeah.
It was technically a tutorial dungeon.
Which is a whole fucking chunk. Like every dungeon in this game is a whole event. So
just like Persona.
Yeah. A game, also for transparency's sake, that I've never finished. I never beat Persona 5. I only did like the first dungeon in that game. So it's interesting that I've actually beaten this, and I maybe should go back and finally beat Persona 5 because I've proven to myself it can be done by me. So, impressions.
Yeah, I mean, you already brought up a bunch of features, but just kind of like, I guess, talk about my thoughts on it and stuff. You had brought up, I'll just cover the day and night system right off the bat. This is something I was already familiar with because of Persona, and also a weird example, but Zenless Zone Zero also has a day and night system, though that one is very flexible. I guess it didn't used to be. Community didn't like it, which is a good example of divisive.
Yeah.
And so the devs changed it, but that is a service game. It makes more sense for them to do that versus something like Persona or Metaphor in this case is a crafted project. That's the system, and not everyone's going to like it. I've heard plenty of people say they don't like it, and other people do. So I personally do enjoy it, though I would not want every single RPG to have it. That would drive me insane.
I would go fucking insane. And so I'm not doubling up on this topic in my review. I'll just kind of piggyback real quick. I don't like these systems in games. I hate the feeling of being restricted, especially in a game where, like, if you don't make the right decisions or you don't choose to level or whatever, by the time you have to fight a certain boss in this game, which are challenging bosses, I played on normal, but even on that, they're fucking pretty rough sometimes. There's a stress to, like, am I doing the right fucking things in, like, the 5 days I have or the 10 days I have? And it took me, like, 10 hours to finally, like, get used to it and like learn to enjoy it. So I did end up liking that system once I understood that there's a freedom you get later in the game that kind of alleviates a lot of that pressure because you can revisit a lot of the shit you didn't finish. But early on, it doesn't feel like that. It's like, go finish this fucking quest, and you have 5 days. I'm like, what happens after that?
It kind of hard focuses you on the idea of like time as a concept in the game. So.
And so like I'm supposed to get that done, but I can't even beat that boss right now. I'm not strong enough, and now I'm wasting time and not getting my imagination up. Don't worry about that. Just play the game. You'll be able to get it all done. So just anybody who maybe hasn't played it enough. But for like 10 straight hours, I was like, I don't know if I fucking like this at all.
This is also completely adjacent. I know we're not talking about Persona, but it is the comparable game here.
Sure.
It is completely adjacent to Persona 5. So you've played enough Persona 5, you're going to be used to this system. If not, like you said, you just got to give it a shot for a while.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I hadn't played Persona 5 since like it came out, so like I completely forgot it even had a system like that. This game is very similar to Persona 5. So we had somebody in Discord go like, I loved Persona 5. I've thought about playing Metaphor, and I literally was like, if you like Persona 5, you'll like this game. Like it's very similar.
Yeah. I'm sure that has been emphasized enough at this point, though. It is an interesting system that is a little divisive, but I would say just give it a shot. Yeah, you might grow to like it.
So. Put the time in, because I literally am an example of somebody who does not like that in most games, and I didn't like it in this game until I realized that the game feels like it's being rough on you, but it's not. It'll open up later and allow you to do certain things, and certain mechanics will show up that allows you to get around faster and get things done in a more efficient way. And then when you become stronger, you can go back and knock some stuff out that maybe you didn't think you could before in a faster way, and it all evens out somehow. There's like 3 or 4 times in this game, not just with the day-night cycle, but other things. I was like, how the fuck am I supposed to do this? And then I did it, similar to like Dark Souls, where I'm like, this boss is impossible. And then I beat it, and I'm like, okay, I did it. Okay, cool. I'm fucking done with that. Like, yeah. Anyway.
No, I think that's a good direction for me to go real quick then. The dungeons are huge. That was the same in their other games. They will take you multiple days unless you're just like very overleveled.
Yeah, they're whole like story arcs. It's not like a dungeon like another JRPG where you go in there, just complete it and leave. It's like there's a whole story that plays out. There's like checkpoints and like it's a whole investment.
And you're very likely going to leave and revisit the next day or the day after type of thing. You'll hit re-entry points so you don't have to run through the whole thing again. But be sure to get those before leaving if you
I think
can.
it's like the second or third major dungeon. I think it was the second one. I was like in there for a while and I was like, I'm just going to run ahead till I find the checkpoint because I need to leave. Like I'm running out of shit.
I did that in the first major dungeon a couple times where it's just like, I'm running out of resources.
Yeah.
But I don't want to run through this again. So
I like ran past all these enemies looking for it. And I found it. I was like, fucking thank you. And like left it and then came back and then started, where I left off.
the checkpoints are kind of neat too because it gives you an opportunity to have like a social moment between characters too. They'll kind of talk about the situation and that will change constantly, which is fun if you're into lore.
That runs... I get fatigued by the very anime-esque conversations and repetition of saying certain things in conversations, and I enjoy most of it. But if you are into that, if you like the almost like visual novel feeling of certain games, this game you're gonna love because you can talk to people for fucking ever, like about every single thing, and it's like it just goes on forever. Like, when you go to those checkpoints, you can just sit there and talk with the people. I almost never did. I'm like, I got shit to do. I got to do this dungeon.
Well, and it is just flavor, right?
Yeah.
It's flavor and lore. And speaking of lore, actually, before I get too far ahead, I was trying to get to the boss aspect. Eventually, you're gonna fight. I don't know what they're actually called, but I'm just gonna call them elite enemies, which are like mini bosses basically. And then there's also like the boss of a dungeon. These are not gonna hold your hand.
They don't, like you're talking about like bosses.
Yeah.
This game is really weird because like in a lot of JRPGs, I feel like they're more flexible in how you beat an enemy. In this game, specifically like 3 different bosses, it felt closer to like I was playing a puzzle game than I was playing a JRPG because there's mechanics where it's like, if you don't do this, whether through an item or through a spell that you might have, you're fucked. You can't hit this person. And you got to figure it out. And I'm like, this is like a puzzle. Like I have to like figure out the solution to beating this dude. Whereas like other JRPGs, like that guy's got a lot of health and he like does a lot of fire. So they're like, I should probably wear some fire resistant armor and beat his ass. But in this, it's like, this dude doesn't take damage unless you turn off his spell, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, dude, that's fucking rough.
And because the game features a stamina-esque system for your... I don't want to say turns because you get multiple turns per... It's like phases. When it's your phase, you're presented with, like, we'll just say 4 turns, right? And they're represented by dots or stars, I can't remember, on the top left, I believe.
Primordial ooze. They're just...
Yeah, and taking an action will remove 1, and certain actions will take half of 1, like skipping a turn, which I did a lot in the first dungeon because I had one character who was almost useless against undead, and so
if you miss, it'll take 2 away.
Yeah, you get punished, and if you
crit,
or they miss, they'll lose 2. So they get the same rules as you do.
I was just gonna say though, if you crit or if you hit their weakness, you get more turns. Yeah, but they will fucking exploit that shit.
Yeah. So anything you can do, they can do.
Yeah,
and they know that stuff. So they have a little bit of advantage because obviously they're the computer. The encyclopedia is in their brain already.
Well, also if you're feeling a little lazy, because I experimented with it a couple times, if you turn on autoplay, you can set up the tactics. I think I put like kill at all costs or whatever the fuck it's called. Prioritize killing. So I'll start using consumables and everything just to murder.
Yeah.
It's interesting to watch the game play itself because both of them are playing
for blood.
Like they know exactly how to play the game, and I'm like, this is weird. But it's like boring to watch that. So of course I want to play the game. But I tried it out and I was like, oh, it's like playing against itself like it does against me. Like, that's kind of funny.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is a fair warning, though, that the game is challenging. So you have to really grind to get past that challenging point. So
yeah, I looked up one boss I was fighting, and because I was like, something's not clicking here. and there were so many people in this thread that I was reading. I didn't find a solution in that thread. People were just judging other people's builds, but there's people going like, I'm gonna quit this game, like I can't beat this boss. Like all these people are like, this game's so fucking unfair, I can't get past this guy. And I was just like, yeah, this is pretty rough for me too, but I ended up beating it. I just started changing archetypes and gear and shit, but definitely overlook that stuff, like to make sure you got your best build possible. But the game is not afraid to like punish you.
Yeah.
And people who are overwhelmed by that, this isn't going to be a fun, friendly JRPG for you.
Yeah, and I think that also kind of comes into play with how you felt like it was coming off more like a puzzle game at times, because it is very much trying to get you to figure out the strategy for the fight.
And if you're somebody,
can't just be stubborn and just like be like, I'm only ever going to play the healer with this character, right?
Yeah.
You can't do that. So.
Yeah, but for people who like want to figure out solutions and they feel good when they figure it out, this game's gonna be fucking crack for you, because like there's times where I'm like, oh my god, finally I'm killing the shit out of this guy, whereas before like I'm like, I can't fucking kill this dude,
right?
So yeah.
And you'll get that vibe real early on too. I kind of wish there was a demo, because I think it'd be advantageous for people to try it before buying it.
Hopefully the demo will be a little further into the game, because that first like 10 hours was kind of rough.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm all over the place. The art style is fantastic in my opinion.
Yep.
I love it. Obviously that's subjective, but I think it's beautiful. I think it has a very unique style. They did a really good job representing a multitude of races in a world that they have spent a lot of time creating lore for all of these different factions and stuff like that. You can go through an entire, it's like a, I don't know what you would call it, like a thing where you go through and every time you learn something new, you can read about it. It's just lore that's in there optionally to read if you're interested. So like you meet a new race, a whole entry shows up, you can read the whole thing. It's very cool. They put a lot of time and effort into that. It feels like its own world. So I'll give them a huge props for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because like it's basically fantasy Persona, but it feels different from Persona in terms of lore and like the different tribes and stuff, while also maintaining that like flamboyant flair that Persona has, but it's not modern. So although it's interesting, I noticed a lot of the clothes designs, outfit designs for a lot of the characters are very like 70s and 60s inspired. A lot of bell bottoms, a lot of like 60s British outfits, and like but they're also like fantasy-esque. So it's like it has its own visual identity even beyond Persona, which would be its closest
Which is also a
comparison.
stylistic game,
Yeah. But to other JRPGs out there, it stands alone in like the visual style. You look at it, you know exactly what that game was coming out before it ever even released, and you looked at it and you're like, well, that game already stands out. You look at it, you're like, that's Metaphor. Like it already is like, we don't really have to brand ourselves that hard, because when you look at us, what do we look like? Nothing else except for Persona, and it's even different from that. So anyway.
And we've brought it up multiple times on the channel, but in case you don't watch and this is your first time hearing us talk about the game,
welcome, subscribe.
And hit the like button and comment.
Thank you.
The UI is also gorgeous, which is a
Beautiful.
weird thing to compliment a game on, but they put so much work into it. And that includes even when the chatting's happen, the little 2D picture of the person's face is so expressive.
I love the like hand-drawn looking like faces next to the chat bar while they're acting out the scene and talking in front of you. It adds like this constant visual theme that is like, the whole game's just fucking pleasant to look at, but like it's just amazing how much work they put into that. And the UI and everything visually is just like, everything's a feast for the eyes. It's really cool.
It's beautiful. And I'm not like the biggest visual novel fan, but if they made one with that art style, I'd be real tempted to play it.
So. I would check it out. I'm not really into those at all, but for people who are into that, I think it would do very well.
The music is also, in my opinion, really good. It's a little weird.
Yeah, it is.
After like, I don't know, the combat music specifically is a bit of an earworm for me, and it starts playing, and I'm just sitting there kind of like jamming out to it as it goes. But I also think Persona 5 had amazing music too. So.
I have one complaint about it, which validates my thoughts on the Game Awards when I said that Silent Hill should win Best Music. I don't remember who won that. Was it Metaphor? I don't remember. Somebody else won. Somebody else won, but
Might have been Final Fantasy.
maybe it was Final Fantasy or something like that. But I saw all these people pushing back when I said Silent Hill, saying it should be Metaphor, and I agree that Metaphor's music is good. I've put like near 80 hours into the game. I've listened to all the music, and I think it's really great. My complaint, though, and why I don't think it should have won, is it's repetitive. There's not a lot of songs in the game. The songs are good.
Fair.
The songs are good, but I heard the same songs throughout the whole fucking game with a couple, things here or there that would change things up for main events. But I was kind of amazed on how minimal the soundtrack was. There's the three main songs you hear nonstop throughout the game, and it's kind of crazy.
I feel like Persona 5 is pretty similar in that, though, because I remember listening to a handful of songs in that over and over again too.
Yeah. I wish, and it doesn't need it. That won't affect my opinion on the game at all. I like the music. It's just not a lot of variety. Yeah. But especially with a soundtrack that is so unique sounding, it's I wanted more from it. But I was going to say jokingly that I wish they would have put half of the effort into creating a soundtrack that they put into the visuals and UI.
Yeah, I think it's also, and I can see where you're coming from for sure on that. It's kind of hard as well, though, because you have companies like Square, which basically make video games on top of 100+ song soundtracks.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't compare the two, because Final Fantasy is kind of like a high top standard of music and gaming. So
yeah, it's pretty insane.
I always put it above most games. So,
but the songs at least that I've heard, and I've only, well, I say only.
You've probably heard most of them. I've heard.
It's been hours at this point still.
Yeah.
But I do enjoy the music, and I the same thing with their other games too. So it's just something they pick really unique sounding songs for their games that I don't expect. And then even when I first hear them, they're kind of jarring at first, because I'm like, what a weird choice for a JRPG. And then I'm listening to them like, nah, it's catchy and it fits the theme of the game for sure. So just throwing that out there. If you like their music choices in previous games, you'll probably like it in this as well. So.
I also think that the visual style and some of the weird stuff with the world and the lore that's really bizarre goes really well with the music that makes the world feel wild and kind of crazy, and there's this chaos to the music and the visuals that makes the world just feel pretty unique in terms of this isn't Tolkien-esque fantasy, but it is fantasy, so it's the music really supports how fucking weird it is.
Yeah. What else can I talk about that I experienced? The game still has a relationship system, but it's not the same as the prior games.
It's a bond system.
Yeah, there's no. It's more of a companion / friendship relationship system. It is not a romantic relationship system.
I really like the bond system in this game, because every time most games will have shit like that, and if you're into the story and the connection with that character, you're gonna be like, oh, I hope I can be best buds with this person or whatever, or maybe unlock one thing. But this game, every time you get a tier in their friendship, you unlock new stuff that's beneficial. So I was cracking out on
Persona.
Yeah, and I was cracking out on that. I'm like, that's fucking cool, dude. I'm now, it costs less magla to purchase things within that person's archetype tree. Now they can have 3-4 passive skills. One thing I didn't mention in the beginning of the game is when you, or in the beginning of the video, is when you max out an archetype or unlock archetypes and max them out, you can carry over skills from them to other archetypes.
Cross-classing,
mixing and matching, which I fucking love. And the relationships allow you to get more of those passives over on specific archetypes, whatever the archetype that is related to that person. And I really like that system.
Yeah,
it made me want to keep talking with them and getting more of their relationship unlocked, because it was benefiting me. So that's perfect for me.
No, that's awesome to hear. Because one thing I liked, I'm sorry, I keep bringing up Persona 5, but in Persona 5, one of the things I enjoyed about the relationship system in that is you get to a point where they'd be like, oh, well, in certain situations, they'll take a hit for the main character. This
Yep.
has the same thing,
Yep.
which I think is a really cool system. It's like, kind of shows like you're so close that they want to be protective of each other type of
It
thing.
comes
It's
in
kinda-
handy
it's
too,
cool.
because when I first unlocked that with one of the characters, I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I was in the middle of combat, and my main dude was like hurt pretty bad. I needed to heal him, but someone swung at him, and then Hulkenberg like jumped over and blocked it, and I was just like,
Yeah.
nice, I'll take it.
Yeah, and then and if it's the same, because I haven't gotten this myself, but sometimes you get follow-up attacks too in Persona 5. I assume this will have the same system, where like you'll swing and they'll go, "Oh, me too," real quick, and you
I
get a
don't-
free turn in.
I don't remember that.
Oh no, okay, maybe it's just Persona.
Let me know in the comments. I don't remember seeing that.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't. Like I said, I didn't see it in this game, but it's just something I liked in Persona.
I'm just hoping maybe I did see that and I forgot about it, but I don't remember seeing
Yeah.
that. So
What else can I add to this? The world so far that I've seen has been pretty cool, though it is a little barren in the overworld part that I was in, which was a little sad to see because the city part was pretty dense, actually.
what do you mean by that?
I mean, like, it's just dirt and some wandering animals, and that was about it. It seemed kind of devoid of detail.
Like a physical place you went to, or like
Yeah.
the map?
The place I went to.
Oh, yeah, there'll be more locations.
Yeah. And hopefully they're a little more detailed because the dungeons are pretty detailed. And then the city I was in was also pretty detailed and had a lot of ambient people walking around. So it felt alive, which is really nice.
Yeah, and all the cities are different, like very different, which
That's
I
good.
appreciated. And they all have their own like story arcs happening, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
There's like, I won't talk about it.
Fine. It's fine. And the only other thing I guess I'll add from my experience is I enjoy the game a lot. If I had a critique of it, I do think that there are aspects of it that feel like they kind of drag a little bit, and a lot of that is there's a lot of conversation in the game, and it's not all necessarily. A lot of it's fluff, right?
That's the whole game.
And that can be fun, but when you're trying to just get from point A to B, sometimes it does. You feel it, right? Especially when you're doing it a lot in a game. And I was feeling that even early on in the game. I can deal with that, but it makes it hard for me to want to hop in and play the game all the time, because if I work an 8-hour shift and I work swing shift, I come home, I'm tired. It's not easy for me to play that game because of specifically that aspect of it, because I'm going to want to pay attention. I don't want to miss anything. Role-playing games are like that, right? There's a lot of stuff you need to be paying attention to in order to like experience the whole game. And so that was a hard part for me this month to play this game, was that I was just so tired most of the month that it was hard for me to find like a good time to play the game. So,
Yeah, and I lucked out because I got sick at the beginning of the month, so I was able to put some time into it there. And then I'm on vacation now, so like I was able to get these. And at the end of the night, like after like work or whatever, I would put like an hour into it or whatever. So I've been pretty steady on playing it, but it's not a game that you can easily just like hop in and play for a little bit. Like it's an investment, especially sometimes when there's whole sections where you can't save for a while. It is auto saving, and you can trust that if you want. I don't want to, but yeah, there's like long bouts of time where you can't save it all, and it's like you got to commit to it, which is rough. When it comes to the conversation filler, though, I think the core of what they're saying to each other typically is really good, and there are some moments that were really good.
Yeah.
But this game is a victim of something that a lot of Japanese to English things do, specifically in JRPGs. I don't know if it's a thing that's lost in translation or something, but it's like maybe in Japanese they're saying it in a more efficient way or something. I don't know, but like in English, it's just like they repeat. It's redundant. So like for instance, conversations. I'm not going to be specific because I don't want to reveal anything, but it's like somebody will be like, oh, that guy's got the blah, blah, blah. And someone's like, they have the blah, blah, blah. And then a third person will come and be like, how do they have the blah, blah, blah? And someone's like, they would have had to do this if they have the blah, blah, blah. And then the person's like, well, if they have the blah, 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 then they could do this. And they're like, well, we can't let them do that. Like, and then someone else is like, but how can we not let them blah blah? It's like, oh, you.
When everyone has to have a turn to talk about it.
Yeah, and it's like it's not like a major complaint, but that shit fucking really fatigues me when I'm like playing a game that's already a long, big investment game, and like some of the dialogue is like that. I'm like, okay, like, should I skip 6 sentences and maybe you guys will have this thing you're trying to convey to me resolved so we can move on to the next part of wherever this is going. So yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And the dragging thing, there's some parts in this game that feel like it drags.
Yeah, and that's honestly kind of par for course for a lot of JRPGs. It's just
yeah, for sure.
Something that I'm okay with just because the overall experience is usually good for me. I'm also a fan of turn-based combat, so that's a plus for me in this game. It's also nice to see. It's funny because I feel like this conversation a couple years ago we were having where people were just like unwilling to do turn-based games, and like because they didn't think specifically like Gen Z and now Gen Alpha would be interested in it. And then there's been a couple that have come out now, like the big one obviously being Baldur's Gate 3, but then like this is getting good reception, and then a couple other like smaller games. Like I know Sea of Stars got really good reception. It just shows me like
AAA was wrong about everything.
So you can make games like this for sure. As long as you make them interesting enough, people will learn to play the game and maybe grow to like it as well. So
yeah.
And I think specifically because this game has a job or class system, whatever term you want to use for that, it also adds an element of personality to it. Obviously, there are going to be fights where you want to make sure you have to switch certain things so you get as many turns as you can in combat. But I don't know. I think turn-based role-playing games are the most engaging when I have a job or class system. That's one of the best things, I think. And I'm not saying Final Fantasy invented it, but like one of the favorite things that ever happened to Final Fantasy as a series was the implementation of a job system.
Yeah.
And so like this having that is a huge step up from Persona 5 for me in this game as far as like character goes. I don't think the design is amazing on all the
Archetypes?
Yeah, the float behind you, they're fine. It's very steampunky, and I'm not the biggest fan of steampunk, so
they're hit or miss for me.
Yeah, they're fine, but the fact that you have them and all those different choices and stuff is awesome. So at this point, though, I feel like I'm just rambling. Overall, I quite enjoy my early impressions of the game. I need to play more, and I plan to continue playing as much as I can. So hopefully, I'll be able to give you guys updates on Tasty Casts going forward.
Sure.
But as a first impression, super strong. I have a couple nitpicks, but they're outweighed by the positives. So,
yeah, that's fair. We already went over a lot of stuff, so I don't have to really repeat it too much, but just kind of as a mental checklist. Well, first off, I'll say I beat the game. I beat it in about 76, 77 hours, I think. My Steam time was like 90, so I don't know where all that went, but my in-game save time was like upper 70s. So
pretty easy to add up some start menu time and stuff like that.
Well, like pause the game, go make food, all sorts of stuff over time.
In
like
game, it'll pause the timer. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, because at first I'm like, I put fucking 90 something hours in this game, but then like I looked at my save time and it was like 70 something. I was like, okay, that sounds a lot more reasonable. And I played on normal, in case you're curious. And if you're really curious, there is a storyteller mode, I think it's called, for anybody who's looking for the story, not a challenge. So if you're kind of worried about what we're saying about this game actually being kind of challenging on normal, you can play it on easy. You can play it on the story mode. There's 2 difficulties above normal, I believe. So you have options, and it has a new game plus too, which is great.
Play however you want, man.
Yeah. Don't stress if you didn't do something on your first playthrough. You can go back and do it in the second one. So, and you can carry over things. So that's cool. So yeah, I played through it. Or talked about the art style. I think both the graphics are clean. The drawn art style is beautiful, and the design I think is super unique. To most games, not to the people who make Persona. It makes sense when I look at it, but characters are like so flamboyant. It's kind of crazy. I look at like some of them like you couldn't work in any game, but in this game you look like everybody else. Everybody else is fucking crazy looking too. People with like wings and crazy.
Well, even early on,
bowl
right?
cuts
that,
and
the shop owner.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at them like, whoa, you are crazy looking.
Yeah, and that's just the whole game. Everyone's just insane looking.
Yeah.
But they all look like that. So I'm like, okay, like you fit in like everybody else. So it kind of sells the world. It's like a Fifth Element. You see all the people who look crazy, but everybody else is dressed like that. And it's like, oh, that's just that world. That works. So yeah, I appreciate that. The game has a lot of locations, which I was kind of surprised because when you first look at the overworld map, it only shows you where you know. So there's a lot of things there that will be uncovered eventually. So by the end of the game, I was like, there's actually a lot of places you go in this game. It's kind of crazy.
It's nice to hear.
Plenty of side quests. At first, it's like you think you're going to have like one dungeon to do on the side, but by the end of the game, there's a lot of things you could have done. And there's a lot of shit I didn't do. There's a lot of NPCs I didn't talk to and a lot of things that I feel incomplete about. Like I feel like I need to play New Game Plus and go knock out the things I didn't do. The game definitely feels like it's designed for you to play a second time, which I appreciate because sometimes they don't really think about replayability, I guess. So,
well, and if they follow suit like they do with Persona, there will be a gold edition later that'll have an entire new chapter added onto
fuck.
Because they like to do that.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. At least I've actually played through this, though, so I'm kind of ready for new content. Music's good, but minimal in terms of like variety is something I would like to see improved upon if I have a nitpick. I really like the combat system. I like turn-based combat, which is amazing because when I was a kid I hated it, but now I'm like a big fan of it. I like the strategy of it, and this game is a very strategic game. I like that there's a front row and back row. I wasn't really utilizing it for the first like 20 hours, but by the end,
I was playing healer.
Yeah, but by the end, I was making sure people were in the right spots. And there are things you get later, perks and passives and stuff that will affect people. Like one of the archetypes I had a heal, but they had to be in the same row as you. So
okay.
So I'm like, that's interesting. So you have to start strategizing even more. The turn-based system is good, though. I do like and absolutely hate, I forgot what it's called, but the stamina system. I think it's a neat idea, but I do feel like the computer, the game itself, abuses the fuck out of it because it knows your weaknesses. It knows what's more likely to get a crit. I've watched it play my characters, and it's the exact same thing to itself. So, and I'm sure if you're like a seasoned player, maybe you're thinking like, well, you should know. Well, yeah, most people, if they beat the game, they should know all that stuff. But if you're starting the game out, it's a little daunting.
Or if you have my memory.
Yeah, or
I'm gonna forget constantly. So,
or just by the roll of the dice, you went through, you took your 4 turns, and then it just fucking steamrolls you. And it does sometimes feel like, really, like you're just wrecking me now all of a sudden. And that happened a couple times where I was like, dude, this is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, even a little bit I played, I got into fights with just random trash, and they took like what felt like 10 turns. And I was like, I just hit pause. I was like, restart battle.
Yeah, that's fair.
So,
and you can restart your battle once. If you fail, you have to reload from wherever you last saved. But yeah, if the fight's not going well, you can restart it once, which I do appreciate. I did use that feature a couple times because like I got ambushed. They did a lot right in the beginning. I'm like, let's try that again. I hit the button and then it's a little more in my favor. I'm like, okay, cool. So the combat system's cool. I love the archetypes. This is something that I kind of wish Persona 5 had because this is the hooking factor for me. The thing before the game even came out that I was most interested in was seeing that you can take all of your characters and switch them to different archetypes. You can be a little more hands-on with your composition, your team comp. I like that. I like strategy games that just had way more incentive for me to play than just straight up this guy's this guy's this. and then you're switching them around often. By the end, I had like a lot of archetypes unlocked on every single character, so I could swap around depending on the situation. Really like that system, met with the gear that you can enhance your stats even further or give yourself abilities with the, I forgot what the fuck they're called.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
The starters? I don't remember.
They're basically like little artifacts you can equip.
Yeah, so. That's gonna drive me nuts. I can't remember the fucking name of those. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to augment your characters. I also really liked uncovering new archetypes through different means, and then certain archetypes later you can only unlock if you start playing multiple different archetypes. Like it'll be like you need to be level 10 in this and level 20 in that to be able to use this. And so you're really kind of grinding it out, which I liked. Gave me something to kind of work towards as I'm playing through the story. Yeah, so combat's good outside of the stamina system, which I do feel like the game exploits. But if I was the game, I would too.
That's like when people complain that their healer's getting smashed, and you're like, you would do that too.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've even like games like the finals. If someone's playing healer, I'm like, they're gonna target you first.
Yeah.
Your team's gonna fucking try to annihilate you as quick as possible because I would.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna keep me alive. It's gonna make things worse. So yeah, it just kind of comes with the territory. Let's see. The story, I'm not going to talk about it. This is spoiler free. I really like certain elements of it. I like the political nature of it. I like that there's all these different tribes and how they interact with each other and how there's a history to them.
They're very cool looking too.
Yeah. They also feel a little different than what I'm used to in traditional fantasy.
There's some very Asian elves, though.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's like some contemporary modern themes that are interwoven in the politics between the tribes and how people are like, segregated and treated differently and stuff like that.
Lesser races versus grander races.
Yeah, which is it just adds some depth. And the way the story itself, the main story goes, I think has some good surprises. Things I didn't expect, and some things I did suspect happening, some twists and turns, which I appreciated. I like most of the characters. Some of them I wasn't a fan of. That's going to be, in most JRPGs.
Yeah.
But you spend a lot of time with some of them, and I'm like, I don't know if I really like this character or not. But then other ones I liked, like, these names won't mean anything to you if you haven't really played the game too much. But like, I liked Heisme, I like Hulkenberg, I like Stroll, I like a lot of the early, cast. Maybe I spent more time with them, so I like them more. But then
Hulkenberg's a pretty cool character.
Hulkenberg's a cool character. I used her often in my teams. Stroll as well, even though for the first half of the game, I couldn't really get him to work well for me, but towards the end of the game, he's one of my heaviest hitters. So, so that was nice because I was like, I don't have a fucking place for you. There's a guy named Heisme. I really liked him, although he started off really good, and later in the game, I was like, you're not really working for me anymore, man. And then some of the characters added later, I liked some of them. One of them, I don't know if I should say her name because you might not even know you're gonna have her in your team or not, but I didn't like her a whole lot. She's kind of a boring character. I'll just let people speculate on who that is.
Okay.
But yeah, character's cool. The main character, I kind of... How do I even fucking talk about it? I think he's like super underwhelming. He doesn't have much to say, and he just is supportive of everything. So like everyone else is like playing out the scenarios and talking about shit, and he's just sitting there hanging out. And then people are like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do this. He's like, I think you're gonna be able to do it. And they're like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, I think you're the best. I think you're great. Everyone. He just says that constantly. Like,
How else is he gonna be king?
I just wish there was like a little. I wish there was something I could read from him as a character.
Yeah,
like there's some darkness to him, or there's some fucking. He's the happy-go-lucky guy. He's not none of that. He's just like, I'm gonna be king, and everyone around me is great, and I love them all. I'm like, cool, but without saying anything too far, there's stuff later in the game that I was like, that's cool with him. So, I'll leave it there. But I thought it was, worth mentioning that the main character is kind of like,
He's super safe, I'd say.
he's like a blank slate. Like there's not much to him. It's weird. And then when people interact with him directly one-on-one, it's like they're talking to like a puppy or something. Like it's just, there's nothing going on. But there's stuff later that's cool. What else?
I think the Pixie's also a pretty good support character.
Yeah. She
worried.
talks too much, but her as a character I liked. Yeah.
I expected that because she's the let me tell you how to exist character, but
yeah, when she's Navi.
Yeah,
hey, listen.
Except she's not just saying, "Hey, listen." So, yeah.
But it feels like it because sometimes I was grinding and I got to the point where I could just hit the enemies and kill them. I didn't have to go into combat. Oh yeah, huge fucking thing that every JRPG needs in this game. You obviously when you get into combat, it puts you into the turn-based combat. But if you're at a level where you're going to steamroll them anyway, it just allows you to walk up and hit them, and then they die, and you get the win. XP. Yeah. If you keep milking that, it lowers the XP you're getting from them, so you can't just
abuse it too much. Yeah.
But which I think is fair. But that's like next level. A couple games do it, but like they all need to do it. That because it's not even like the threat of combat. I'm worried about. It's like the loading into the combat, loading out of the combat with all the menus. It's streamlined. Yeah. Streamlined, man. I fucking love it. Yeah. Huge. Like I would give that feature an A+. I absolutely love it. But how to get on that? You hit people. I was like running around just grinding, killing shit, and I got hit like once or twice. I had like 78% of my health or something. You take damage and everyone starts reminding you took damage. Like, you need to heal. Hey, have you healed? And she says a lot of shit, and it gets repetitive quickly. Okay. She says this one thing that rhymes. I forgot what she says. She says it, though, and then she's like, hey, that rhymed. And I've heard her say that a million fucking times. I'm like, I'm fine.
Okay.
These guys can't kill me that quickly. I just took some damage. I'll heal eventually. Like, fucking chill. So, hearing her voice drove me nuts eventually. In just like passing, but in the story, I thought she was an interesting part of it. So I don't dislike her as a character, but it's just like when you play Horizon Forbidden West and Aloy's fucking talking about every blade of grass. Like, oh, there's a blade of grass right there. Well, look at that. There's a tree over there, and there's some water over there. I love water. I drink water all the time. It's like, okay, shut up. Like, why are you talking constantly to yourself? It's not that bad, but anyway.
It's just excessive.
Yeah. It could be redesigned, or maybe there's an option that I didn't see that you can like turn that down the frequency or something like that. Any game that does that should allow for that, because everybody's gonna have a different opinion on the frequency of how much is too much. So anyway, but yeah, she's cool. And there's some mechanical features with her that I thought were kind of cool too. So she's not just a character. There's stuff to her.
I won't say too much with this a boss fight early on where she kind of gets introduced as an assist basically, but she has a cooldown, and I thought that was kind of neat. So.
Oh yeah. And then I guess I'll say the bad guy. There's like a lot of people.
Sure, it's a political story
in motion. So, I thought they all were good, and I think the unraveling of the mystery of what has happened, I guess, was satisfying. And this isn't like Final Fantasy level villain, but I liked Louis as a villain. I'm not saying he's like the end-all be-all villain, but he is one of the people that
he worked for you.
Worked for you? Oh yeah.
Worked for you.
Yeah. I like characters like him that are driven by their own rule set and they follow it. So he's like got convictions. You understand him as a character. He's not just like the bad guy to be a bad guy. He's like, I think things will be good my way, and he like respects people who do things the way he thinks they should be done. Like he's always talking about power.
He's ideological.
Yeah, and I like that. It makes him an interesting bad guy, not just like, I'm going to take over the world, I'm a bad guy. Like, there's something driving him. You understand from his perspective why he thinks he could do something better than other people.
Yeah, I generally prefer a villain to, I guess they don't always have to be a villain, but the person that you don't have an agreement with in a game to be like that, where they're not just like, bad to be bad or whatever. Though I do think sometimes it's nice to have someone who's just crazy and evil for no reason.
Sure.
So
This game offers that too. There's a lot of villains, so.
But one of the first ones you run into was a very Atlas villain, I will say.
Zorba?
The
Necromancer guy?
before him, part of the trial dungeon.
I don't remember.
You get. I'll discuss it with you afterwards.
Okay, that's fair. That's fine. And then speaking of
General, I'll say that much. Or squadron leader or whatever. So.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about.
He was such a dork.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then lastly, I will just finish by saying that the last boss that I will not say anything about, and like 2 other bosses towards the middle to the end, I thought were excessive and satisfying to beat, but felt borderline insulting to my time fighting them. And for anybody who's like thinking, if it was hard or whatever, or there's a specific way you had to do it, it's super easy, blah, 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 like whatever excuse you might think my judgment of how these were designed might be, I beat them. So it's like whatever. But the way that they were set up and the phases and all sorts of stuff, I thought was like way too excessive. Unless you have certain systems set up where you can just like hit for crazy damage because you have like the perfect build and you found it online or whatever. I don't know. Some of these fights can like go way longer than I feel like you should be fighting a boss for. In fact, when I first attempted the last boss, I can't say anything about it, but I literally started the game over. I turned it off because it had been going for so long. I was like, there's no reason I should fight this guy this long. And I was low level when I fought him. I think I was like fucking 67 or 68 or something like that.
Yeah, you said you were like 20 levels under him or something.
Yeah. So it's taking a while, but and I was still fighting him, but I was like, this is taking so long. I'm just going to go grind a little bit. I'll come back, which I did. But and when I came back, leveled appropriately, the fight still took a while. And a second part took it was annoying. It was just an annoying part of the fight, and I was like, this is like not fun for me.
That's fair.
So that is criticism that I might hold against the game a little bit. I think most of the bosses were fine, but some of them just felt really fucking cheesy. They were like challenging to be challenging. And in retrospect, I would just wreck them this time because I know what to do. But for the first time experience, I was like, this is kind of fucked up that they're designed like this. So, especially if you didn't have certain archetypes unlocked or something, like you made a mistake earlier in the game, you didn't get certain things done. It's like, good fucking luck. Hopefully you had an alternate save or something. I don't know.
I ran into something kind of similar in Persona 5 where I hit a boss and then it was like hitting a wall. And I was like, shoot, what do I do now?
Yeah, I hit like 3 walls in the game, but I got past them. But every time it happened, I was not having fun. I was like, did I make a mistake? It's like, am I fucked? I beat him, so it's whatever. Yeah. But it's just like, I wish there was a couple more dynamic ways to maybe go about those fights. So just to add some freedom. But I get it. They want you to figure it out. So, and then my last complaint about the game is there are segments of the game that really feel like they're dragging, specifically at the end of the game. The end goes for a long time. And although I found it satisfying and I liked the end result of it, and I can't wait for a sequel because I had read that Atlas was saying, Atlas, right?
The publisher.
Publisher. Well, who's the
I don't remember the name of the studio.
D3 or something? I don't know. Whoever the dev is, I apologize for not remembering. They said they want to turn Metaphor into Persona, but fantasy, basically. They want to have a series, and I would love that. I would love to play a sequel.
No, I think it'd be really cool to revisit that world. It doesn't even need to be the same characters. It could be different every time, just like Persona is.
It would be really interesting, though, to exist in that world after this game, having the experience you have in this game.
And I don't have the info.
Exactly. So yeah. I'm not saying it negatively. It's just like that would be really interesting to play in that world with different characters, and maybe revisit characters that exist in this one. Like, I think it'd be great. So, but that ending really dragged, and there's a couple parts in the story that felt like they were really fucking dragging. Like, I was like checking my watch, like, bro, like, get to it, dude. So,
Yeah.
but again, after the drag, I was satisfied with the events that happened. I feel like they could have been done a little more timely, I guess. But yeah, overall, beat the game. I really liked it a lot.
I'm glad to hear that.
I wouldn't say it's one of the best JRPGs ever made, but it's definitely an example of the difference between AAA JRPGs and just JRPGs. This is a very well-made JRPG that really shines and shows, like, if you put money into a JRPG and put like passion behind it, you can create something super unique. That it's not all just about Final Fantasy out there. Like, these guys are making high quality, great fucking JRPGs. So
Yeah.
it was definitely worth my time, even though some parts that time felt a little slower than the rest of it. But yeah, overall, I really liked it a lot.
Yeah, and even that being said, a giant like a Final Fantasy game too, and obviously people are gonna have different opinions on it. But like when I played Rebirth, there's plenty of times I thought it dragged. So that's why
I stopped playing it.
It happens.
I need to get back into it, but
overall, good game.
Yeah,
there are parts though where I was like, "Ooh, this could be shorter."
Did you like Rebirth more than Remake?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I need to beat it.
So,
okay.
there's
Well,
just more to do, which is the biggest complaint of the first game. So.
Well, that's hard for me because sometimes if the side content isn't like that fun, but you're just doing it to knock it out because there's something to get.
Well, I have that complaint too.
That will fucking get me to quit playing it pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna make side content, make it worth my time. Like this game,
there's a lot of lore and story attached to a lot of the like side quests in Rebirth, which makes it worth it, I think. So.
Yeah, I just like doing the friendship stuff, the bonds in this in Metaphor was worth it because it just made all my characters better for it, and I was like, great, you incentivized me to pursue all these friendships and get them maxed out.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot in Persona as well. In that game, you would actually
I need to revisit that game.
places with people, and have like outings with them, or you'd like play games with them and stuff like that. It was cool. So. But I like it. It gives it a live-in quality. So
yeah, both games have that for sure. Okay, so I really liked it. Beat it. You are playing it. You're going to keep playing
Strong first impression. Yeah,
Yep.
I intend to play it more. I need to be awake though.
Yeah, I would like to know your thoughts on the game when you do beat it.
I will try to put a decent effort into like beating it, but
I get it. It's a big game, so.
Yeah.
Let's jump into recommendations. I would give a strong recommendation that if you like JRPGs, you should play this.
But if you don't like Majora's Masks because of like the trying to get a bunch of stuff done in a certain amount of time type of thing, this has the same problem.
Yeah, though I would hope you can get past the first 10 hours to understand that it's not as bad as it seems.
Yeah.
But it at first does feel terrible,
For sure.
in my opinion, as somebody who doesn't like those kind of systems. But you appreciate it later with certain things only happening at night, certain things happening at day, and kind of strategizing your days. It kind of becomes like this routine that you get used to. But at first,
Just like real life.
Yeah, it's at first though it's kind of daunting if you're not into it. But it gets better, I promise. So yeah, JRPGs. I think this is a must play if you're into JRPGs. If you like turn-based JRPGs, Japanese style, RPGs in general, like you're gonna dig this probably. It is challenging though, but you can turn down the difficulty. So if you're worried about that, just play it at your own pace and enjoy it. It's got a lot of really cool systems. If you like strategy games, puzzle games, you might dig this, which is weird, but there's just a lot of thinking in this game. A little bit more than other JRPGs in my opinion. Outside of maybe a tactical RPG, which I would love to play one of those if everybody's making new ones.
Unicorn Overlord.
True. Yeah, I didn't think about that. I need to go back and play fucking Fire Emblem too.
That's a big game.
Yep. Well, this was a big game. What else? Games with very unique art styles. If you appreciate games that really stand out, this game stands the fuck out. Do you have anything else? Because like this game is like,
I mean, it's a political story if you're into that.
yeah,
So, you know, a good
Game
example.
of Thrones, like,
Yeah, or Final Fantasy 12
Yeah.
is a political story as well, where the focus is more on the world and less on the characters. Though this does obviously have characters it focuses on. The overarching story is definitely a political piece. So,
yeah,
if that is attractive, I would say so.
loosely as well if you can handle the combat or just turn it down. Visual novels. There's a lot of like reading and a lot of voice acting, which I appreciated, which is all decent. I didn't mention that, but it's got decent voice acting.
Were you playing it in English?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah. Were you playing Japanese? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, in English, I was very okay with the voice acting. I thought it was all done well. So
That's great to hear.
yeah. I think that's about it. This game is like a straight up JRPG. If you're not into those at all, this game's not going to change your mind. This is not the game that's going to get you.
Pretty hard.
This one's not going to. Yeah. This is not the introduction to JRPGs for you.
3.
Yeah. Yeah. Play something else if you're trying to get into JRPGs. Yeah. This one is one you get to later when you've played enough of them and you're looking for like the potent stuff, the hard hitting shit.
The dry red wine.
Yep.
Of wines.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Not the Moscati d'Asti or something like that. It's gonna be sweet. Perfect analogy. Price should grade it.
Yep.
Okay, so I'll grade it as somebody who's beaten the game. I'm teeter-tottering between A and A minus. I think I'm going to go with a really strong A minus. I want to give it an A, but there was some parts in the game that I felt kind of frustrated with by the design of the game. Some bosses, some of the day-night stuff that I think could have been avoided if it was designed differently. But I really want to give it that A. I can't give it an A plus just because as much as I did like the story, I didn't love it. I just thought it was serviceable, and I'd love to see this world continued. I didn't really love like the characters, although I liked them.
I think that's like super fair because like if they do decide to expand upon the world of Metaphor, this is a starting point then.
Yeah, it's an establishing game. It's like the beginning of an anime where you're learning the characters and the rules of the world and all that stuff. The next one can just dive into some other story. But I love what they've built here with the foundation. So strong A minus. I think it's a super fucking solid JRPG. Definitely worth your time. With some things that can be frustrating, especially if you don't plan ahead accordingly or have the correct archetypes or are just ignorant on maybe how some spells work or some consumable items could help you out or don't know where the fuck to get those because they're limited. There are some things that can kind of hang you up unless you're playing on easier difficulty maybe. So yeah, really strong A minus, super solid game. Really recommend it.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that because I wasn't sure how you would receive the game. So I personally obviously did not beat it. I am a little past I wouldn't even say a little past the tutorial. I'm a little past the intro to the game. So this is definitely an impression of the game, and I would say it's a very strong impression. I don't love the game yet, but I do love things about the game quite a bit. So I'm going to give it a very strong B+. I need more to have a stronger or even weaker opinion at this point.
Game only gets better, so.
But I do like what I see so far, and it has the things, the weaknesses I kind of expected it to have, having played Persona before. So it's just kind of par for course.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice to think in retrospect that like the beginning of the game is the worst part of the game. So, I mean, that's like, you could say that about almost any game, but sometimes you play a game, you get hooked instantly because of like the gameplay mechanics, something like that. Everything just gets better the further you play it, but it's a JRPG, so.
Well, and I'm going to bring it up again, but the first dungeon of Persona 5 is probably like the least exciting one in the whole game. So.
Yeah, that's where I stopped playing. It's like playing the first dungeon, I'm like, I'll come back to this later.
Yeah. And then it just expands into this huge game. So
yeah.
They are definitely games you need to be patient with. You have to put the time in, get some systems, get past like the first like dungeon or two, and then if it's not clicking by then, it probably is not gonna. But you have to give it an honest shot. So you can't just taste it and go, I don't like it, because you didn't actually see the meal. So
Yeah, you haven't gotten to the substance of it yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I agree with that 100%. When I was talking with Josh about this game, and he was saying he's not into these kind of games with the day-night cycle or whatever, which I understand. I emphasized to him, like, you gotta play into it a little further, though, before you can really kind of make that decision. I agree with your opinion on that kind of system, but this game holds a lot back. You have to get into it to really see if you do like it or not. So,
Right.
But yeah, so B+, A-.
Yep.
We both like it. Got anything else?
I'm looking forward to hearing some of your guys' opinions. I know a couple of you in the community either played. I think one of you beat it. So
Yep.
let us know your thoughts. Obviously, spoiler tags if you go too deep into it, so that I don't read it because I'm beating the game, and then also our community doesn't read it, or random strangers that come along. But let me know what you think about it.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious as well, because I feel like this is going to be, I don't think necessarily divisive. I think a lot of people really like it, but I'd be curious to know where you like it at, because when I was reading in those forums, people seem pretty divided on certain things. So,
Yeah, and
obnoxiously sometimes in both directions of either the game's the best thing ever or the worst thing ever.
well, it's gonna be tricky too because it got a nomination, right? And so, like,
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people tried it without enough education on it before buying it. So,
Yeah, possibly.
it's just like I'm sure the amount of people playing Balatro right now is insane. So,
Probably.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about Metaphor ReFantazio. What do you think? If you've played like all the Personas, or at least Persona 5 all the way through, how do you think it compares to that? I can't say anything on that because I never beat Persona 5, but I do prefer this over Persona 5 just because I think the setting and the archetypes is the big thing that's different for me. Is I love the fucking archetype system. If Persona 5 had that, I'd probably be playing it right now. So, yeah, where do you think it stacks? And are you looking forward to more Metaphor? And if you didn't play Metaphor and you sat through this whole review, thanks for listening. But also, do you want to play Metaphor now after hearing us talk about it? And yeah, let us know everything you think about in the comments below when it comes to Metaphor ReFantazio. Also, do you have any JRPGs you would recommend us play? Let us know. But that's going to do it for this episode of Game of the Month. As always, thank you for watching. Thank you, Chevy, for joining me for this long conversation. Thank you guys for sitting and listening with us and hopefully commenting. And yeah, stay tuned. We'll be doing a taste cast soon. I also have some reaction videos. I did a Battlefield reaction video that uploaded and released too early. I wanted to do it at like 10 a.m., but it came out at 2 a.m. So if you didn't see it pop up on your feed, go check that out. I had a lot to say about the new Battlefield and what they revealed. And yeah, until the next one, I've been Seth. Have a good one, guys, and take it easy.